You wake up one morning, and the coffee has no smell. You lean over the cup the way you have done every single day for 40 years. You wait for that warm, familiar aroma to rise and greet you, and nothing comes. The cup is just heat and steam. You think it must be a cold. You think it must be your sinuses. You think perhaps this is simply one more small thing that age has quietly taken from you. You wipe your nose, you drink the coffee anyway, and you never think of it again. You certainly do not think about your brain, and that is exactly the problem. Because what I am about to describe to you today is something that most people only recognize after years have already slipped away. Years that could have been used. Years that could have protected everything they cared about most. I am Dr. Hiroshi Nakamura. For more than 30 years, I have worked in internal medicine and geriatric health, sitting across from older men and women in quiet rooms, listening to the small complaints that most people wave away. And in all those years, I have watched one particular disease reveal itself slowly, patiently, almost politely, long before anyone in the room suspected it was there. Almost everyone waits for one single thing, the shaking hand, the tremor. That is the image the whole world carries in its mind. But by the time the tremor finally arrives, this disease has usually been at work inside the body for years, sometimes for close to a decade. Today, I want to show you where it actually begins. Not in the hand, in the places no one ever thinks to look. Before I take you any further, I want to say something plainly, because fear helps no one, and I will not use it on you. The purpose of this video is not to convince you that you have Parkinson's disease. Please hear that clearly. Almost every single sign I am going to describe today has a completely innocent explanation when it stands on its own. One sign, by itself, means very little. It is only when several of these signs appear together, quietly gathering over time, that it becomes worth a calm and unhurried conversation with your doctor. Knowledge here is not something to be afraid of. Knowledge is the thing that removes the fear. So let me begin by clearing away 3 beliefs. 3 ideas that sit in the minds of good, careful people and quietly do a great deal of harm. The first belief is that Parkinson's disease begins with tremor. It does not. The tremor is a late arrival. It is one of the last guests to show up, not the first. In a great many people, the disease has been progressing silently for years, sometimes for nearly 10 years, before that first visible trembling appears in the hand. And I want you to understand something that surprises almost everyone. There are patients who never develop a noticeable tremor at all. Their disease announces itself in entirely different ways. So if you are quietly waiting for your hand to shake before you will take any of this seriously, you may be waiting straight through the most valuable window of time you will ever have. The second belief is this: if I had something like that, surely I would know. This is perhaps the most understandable mistake of them all, and it is wrong. The earliest signs of this disease are so ordinary, so gentle, so easy to explain away, that almost no one recognizes them for what they are. They look exactly like ordinary aging. They look like stress. They look like a poor night of sleep, or a stuffy nose, or simply getting older. Nobody connects these small things to the brain, and because nobody connects them, nobody mentions them to a doctor. They go unspoken for years. The third belief is the most damaging of all. It is the quiet, defeated idea that there is no point in knowing early, because nothing can be done anyway. I want to take that belief and set it aside completely, because it is simply not true. Early recognition changes everything. It changes when treatment can begin. It changes how well exercise can protect your body. It changes how much time you have to plan, to prepare, and to protect your independence for as long as possible. In my experience, the people who do best over the long years of this condition are almost always the ones who started earliest. Every single time. In my earlier video on how dementia begins, I explained something that I want to repeat now, because it is the key to everything today. The brain warns us. It warns us long before the obvious symptoms arrive. It sends up small signals, quiet flares in the dark, hoping someone will notice. Parkinson's disease follows that very same rule. So let me walk you through the warnings now, one by one, slowly and carefully, the way I would if you were sitting across from me in my office. The first warning is the one we began with, the loss of smell. This is very often the earliest sign of all, appearing years, sometimes many years, before anything else. There is a region of the brain that handles our sense of smell, and it is one of the very first areas this disease touches. And so the coffee loses its aroma. A favorite meal, a dish you have loved your entire life, suddenly smells like almost nothing at all. Flowers, rain, the kitchen at dinner time, all of it grows faint and gray. Now, on its own, a fading sense of smell is usually completely harmless. It can follow an ordinary infection and never mean anything more. But when it arrives quietly alongside other changes, it deserves your attention, not your panic. The second warning hides inside sleep itself, and this is one I want you to pay very close attention to. Some people begin to act out their dreams. They shout, they kick, they swing their arms and strike out at the air, and sometimes at the person lying beside them. This is called a sleep behavior disorder. Normally, when we dream, the body holds itself in a kind of gentle paralysis. It keeps us still and safe while the mind wanders. But in this disorder, that protective stillness has weakened, and the body begins to physically live out the dream. Stay with me here, because this detail matters enormously. Very often, it is not the patient who notices. It is the husband or the wife, lying awake in the dark, frightened, beside a person who has become restless and violent, in a sleep they will not even remember when morning comes. The third warning is written down, right there where you can see it with your own eyes. The handwriting begins to shrink. Watch a single line of writing closely, and you may see the letters growing smaller and smaller as the hand travels across the page, until the words are cramped and crowded and difficult to read. A signature that a person has written the same way for 60 years begins to change its shape. Think of it like a voice that grows quieter and quieter, sentence by sentence, until it fades away into a whisper. The hand is being instructed, silently, to make smaller and smaller movements. And the hand obeys, without the person ever noticing they have changed. The fourth warning appears the moment you walk. One arm quietly stops swinging. The other arm keeps its normal, natural rhythm, back and forth with each step, but one side goes still. It hangs, held oddly close to the body. And here is what I want you to understand. Most people cannot feel this happening at all. There is no pain, no weakness they can point to. They see it for the first time in a shadow stretched across the pavement in front of them, or in a reflection caught in a shop window. One arm moving freely, and the other strangely quiet. If any of this is beginning to sound familiar to you, whether in yourself or in someone you love and worry about, I would like you to write the word "noticed" in the comments below. It genuinely helps me understand who these videos are reaching, and it may help someone else reading them feel less alone. The fifth warning appears in the face. The small muscles of expression begin to move less and less. The face grows still, almost like a mask, and the people around them start to say things. You look sad today. You look angry. Is something wrong? Meanwhile, inside, the person feels perfectly calm and content and cannot understand why everyone keeps asking. This is not mood. This is not sadness. It is the disease quietly reducing movement, even in the smallest and most delicate muscles we have, the ones we use to show the world what we feel. The sixth warning is the voice, and this one reveals so much about the nature of this disease. The voice grows softer, quieter. Gradually, over months, it loses its strength, and so the people around them begin asking them to repeat themselves, again and again and again. Now here is the part that always stays with me. The person almost never believes their own voice has changed. They are absolutely convinced that everyone around them has developed a hearing problem. The children mumble, the spouse is going deaf, the whole world has started whispering. The volume of their own voice has dropped so slowly, so gently, that they cannot hear the change in themselves at all. The seventh warning lives in two very different places at once, in the digestion and in the stride. Constipation that becomes stubborn, persistent, and difficult can begin years before anything else, because this disease slows the entire body down from the inside, including the quiet machinery of digestion. And at the very same time, out in the open where anyone might see it, the steps grow shorter. The feet begin to shuffle along the floor, rather than lifting cleanly. The stride shrinks, quietly, the very same way the handwriting shrank on the page. The body grows smaller in its movements, in more ways than one. Now I want to slow down completely, and I want to tell you something hopeful. Because this is the part of the conversation that matters most, and it is the part that fear-driven videos almost never reach. Several of these signs have completely innocent causes. I need you to hold on to that. A soft voice can come from nothing more than ordinary aging. A lost sense of smell can follow a simple infection and never return, meaning nothing at all. Stubborn constipation can come from a medication you are already taking, from a sluggish thyroid, from a vitamin deficiency, from 100 everyday things that have nothing to do with the brain. This is exactly why one single sign should never send you spiraling into worry. And even when these signs do point toward Parkinson's disease, I want you to hear this next part as clearly as anything I have said today. This is one of the most treatable conditions in all of neurology. Medication can restore lost function for years and years. Exercise, and especially regular daily walking, has been shown to actually slow the progression of the disease itself. This is not a death sentence. I want to say that word plainly and take its power away. It is a manageable condition, and the earlier it is met, the more of your life remains fully yours. Let me tell you about a patient of mine. I will call him Hank. He was 71 years old, a retired engineer, a precise and careful man who had kept meticulous notebooks his entire life. Every project, every measurement, every small observation, all recorded in his neat, steady hand. Over the course of about 2 years, his wife quietly noticed 3 things. She noticed that he had stopped smelling her cooking, that the meals she made no longer drew him into the kitchen the way they always had. She noticed that he had begun shouting and thrashing in his sleep, so much so that she had started to lie awake, uneasy, beside him. And she noticed that the handwriting in those beloved notebooks had shrunk, line by line, month by month, until she could barely read the words at all. Hank blamed every bit of it on age. He was certain it was nothing, just getting older, he told her. Everyone slows down. But his wife did not accept that. Gently and firmly and without letting it go, she insisted on an appointment. And because she did, Hank was diagnosed early. He began treatment. He began a simple daily walking program, out around the neighborhood, every morning, without fail. 3 years later, Hank is still driving his own car. He is still keeping his notebooks, in handwriting that his wife can read once again. And he said something to me that I have never been able to forget. He said, "Doctor, the disease did not take my life. Ignoring it would have. So what do I want you to do with all of this? Not panic. Please, hear me on that above everything else. One of these signs, standing entirely alone, is almost never Parkinson's disease, and you must not try to diagnose yourself from a single symptom. But if you recognize a cluster of these changes, several of them gathering together over time, that is your signal. Not a signal to be afraid, a signal to sit down with a doctor, ideally a neurologist, and simply ask for a clear answer, calmly, with the quiet intention of knowing, so that you can act. I want to add one important and separate note before I close, because it could matter a great deal to someone watching. Everything I have described today comes on slowly, over months and years. That slow arrival is part of its very nature. But if any symptom appears suddenly, a weakness down one side of the body, a drooping on one side of the face, a sudden difficulty speaking or understanding words, that is something entirely different. That is an emergency, and it needs help immediately. I have spoken about those particular warning signs in my video on mini-strokes, and I would ask you to watch it. When it comes to the brain, sudden is always urgent. Slow is a warning. Sudden is an emergency. Please hold both of those in your mind. I know how heavy a subject like this can feel. I know that watching a video like this can stir up a quiet worry that sits in the chest. But I want to leave you with something steady to hold on to, something true. The body has a remarkable ability to respond when we give it the right conditions, even later in life, even after 70, even after 80. Noticing these things early is not a burden to carry. It is a gift you give yourself. Whether you are protecting your own independence or catching something in time for a husband, a wife, a brother, a friend. The act of paying attention is one of the kindest and most powerful things you can do. That is not fear. That is quiet, informed vigilance. And it may protect the years ahead more than any medicine ever could. If this helped you see these signs more clearly, please subscribe to this channel and give this video a like so that it can reach another person who may need to hear it just as much as you did. In a future video, I want to sit down and talk with you about balance and falls, another place where the body warns us early, if only we know how to listen for it. Until then, take good care of yourself and take good care of the people you love. I will see you in the next one.